As I was introduced, I'm an electrical engineer, so this is very new to me. I had heard about the INFOMAR project, and I had seen maps, and, as he described, some beautiful pictures and everything. But really, until I started preparing for this, I didn't realise how impressive a project it is. And I suppose it's great credit due to everyone in this room, particularly if the data is free. It's such a strong help for us in IMERC to use those facts when we're attracting people and industry into Cork. So I've recently stepped into the role as acting director while Val Cummins is on maternity leave. So I suppose I'll get going with what I wanted to say. I suppose one thing though, the example that you've shown through INFOMAR, when you combine good people with real lofty, ambitious, and great high vision, you really can achieve wonderful things as you're showing today. So the IMERC objective is to become a research and commercial cluster of world standing by realising Ireland's potential in two areas, maritime and energy. So these are year maps again, and you can see already that these are being used to leverage advantage for Ireland and inform policy. This is already coming from your third-party framework where you're using your data to as I say, inform policy and get benefit from it. So I'm not so sure if you're aware of the GDP fact. So there's 1.2% of national or gross domestic product comes from the sea, whereas the rest comes from land, 98%, and you can see that's kind of an imbalance when you go on area. The UK have 5% of their GDP from the sea. Belgium with only, I think it's, you probably dispute this now, but around 88 kilometres, however you measure coastline, but they have 88 kilometres of coast and they get 8% of their GDP from the sea. Denmark with 11 and Norway with a nice 20%. I'm not certain, but I presume that includes their oil and gas, so it's easy to jump off that high. So why IMERC and what is the potential for IMERC? Well, that's one anyway. We can aim very high to increase the GDP percentage from the sea and from the maritime domain. Obviously, we won't dwell on it, but mentioned already the usual doom and gloom, shall we say. But on a more positive side, there's significant global scale opportunities for us as a country to cash in on. And as proving today in this room, this country has absolute expertise in very niche areas, and we can leverage from that. So putting all those things together, there is an opportunity at the moment that is in a unique alignment of skills, institutional capacity, capability, circumstances, and critically, drive. There's fierce momentum behind this movement, and I hope through the rest of this presentation I'll get some of that across to you guys. So the circumstance that we're in at the moment is also it will be the doom and gloom circumstance is a catalyst to the success of this momentum of IMERC. So who we are, the core partners are UCC, CIT and the Navy. They come together in IMERC, and again, to fulfil our vision of becoming a world standing, a cluster of world standing in the two areas of maritime and energy. So as mentioned earlier by earlier speakers, we're in line with EU objectives, like the framework, or the Maritime Strategy Framework Directive that was gone through so eloquently earlier. But I've also put out the statement that came out last week, earlier this month, about the 5 areas that they want to focus in the Blue Growth Initiative. So maritime renewable energy, aquaculture, blue biotechnology, coastal tourism, and seabed mining. And the President of the Commission, Jose Manuel Barroso, said just recently as well, the seas and the oceans can play a decisive role in Europe's economic recovery. So it's topical, to the point, and exactly aligning with what you guys are working on and what also IMERC is working on. So it's in line with our national directives. 4 of us have done the prioritisation to make very, very clear areas that Ireland are going to fund research in. So we're not casting the net too wide and spreading ourselves too thinly. And one of the 14 priority areas that have been identified are marine renewable energy. Again, this aligns with the IMERC objectives. And as has been mentioned earlier as well, the Harnessing Our Ocean Wealth document, which was published from partnership on Taoiseach earlier this year, which is to be welcomed by everyone, I think, particularly working in the marine area. This was a long time in gestation document, and subject to a lot of public consultation. And we're glad to say that IMERC fed quite strongly into it to encourage the ambition of this document. Some targets were identified earlier in a different area. The one that I've picked out to identify is the aim to double our GDP from the sea by 2030 from 1.2% to 2.4%, and to exceed an annual turnover of 6.4 billion by 2020. And again, Taoiseach Enda Kenny has again acknowledged his desire for us to reconnect with the sea, to use ideas, innovation and knowledge, and thus benefit culturally and economically to our country. So I mentioned the Navy is one of the core partners. Mark Mellon, the flag officer of the Navy, has rode in 100% behind this idea of using his Navy, using our Navy, his aim is that he wants to become the smartest and most innovative and responsive naval provider in the world by 2016. So he sees the role of the Navy. First of all, he wants to, because it's a small fleet with 8 or 9 vessels, he'll never be the biggest defence force Navy in the world, but he can see that if he educates his people well and brings them through to PhD levels. There's currently 5 officers at PhD stage in the Navy through Navy training. They can become adaptable, and the virtue then of a small fleet is he can change what they're doing quite easily without going through the difficulty with a larger organisation. So that's the first one. He also sees this as a national strategy, whereby if we can improve if the Navy can help to improve the economic status of this country, then he can protect this country better, because the government will have more money to fund the Navy and thus protect the seas. So coming in at that low level, it's a kind of roundabout route to protecting the seas, which is his core objective. Again, a little bit more of the slight background of where IMERC is coming out of, particularly in UCC, because I'm hosting UCC. I mentioned the HMRC, Hydraulics and Maritime Research Centre, where I worked before I took up this job, and the Coastal Maritime Marine and Energy Research Centre, who I think there are people here in this room as well from this, and these two groups, in conjunction with members from SURG, are going to work very closely in IMERC. But I'd also like to stress that the great IMERC is for, when UCC enter IMERC, it's all of UCC, so we can leverage some aspects of the ERI. It's all going to be anything that's mutually beneficial for those groups within UCC and IMERC will be very, very welcome. CAT and the Navy already have combined down in the National Maritime College of Ireland down in Ringaskiddy, which I'll talk more about later. And also there's a new research group just 2 years old set up down there as part of NMCI research, which is furthering the IMERC ambition, and again I'll talk more about that later on. And critically, these 3 core partners, UCC, CIT and the Navy, come together, but critically with industry partners. The chairperson of the IMERC board is Peter Coyle, who is the head of the Marine Renewable Industry Association. So there's a very, critically a strong link. This is not just an academic and Navy conglomeration or cluster, critically industry, and again you'll see the example of that working later. So as I say here again, IMERC is not only a physical campus down in Ringaskiddy, and you're going to see lovely photographs later on, but it's not just the campus. It's bringing together the key practitioners in the areas that will make IMERC work. And it's also going to be a national focal point for the specific sectors identified in IMERC, but in partnership with all the national stakeholders. It's not a competition. We all work together. Whenever we can share information or share applications in projects like SFI funding, we'll all work on it together, and to the benefit of all. There's 4 key pillars in IMERC, which I'm going to go into next. Right. So the first one is marine energy, which is closer to my heart because that's where I come from. In the Hydraulics and Maritime Research Centre here in UCC. But there's a lot of interest in companies coming down to IMERC to work with the Navy and see what the Navy vessels could help them in trialling their devices, helping in deployment. There are research groups in this area, and industry partners have arrived from this area and are already co-locating on the site in Ringaskiddy. Maritime security is clearly very strong from the Navy, but also research projects being carried out by Navy personnel under the auspices under the CIT certification for their PhD. And the 4th pillar, which hasn't done with INFOMAR data, enables success in all 4 pillars. And I'm not going to go into that. I think that's clear today, particularly for people here who have been working in that area. You can see the immediate benefit to informed policy, to informed decision making, and for site selection for devices, etc., etc. So how does IMERC work in these 4 areas, and what expertise do we have in each of these areas that we can bring to the picture? So ocean engineering, again, this primarily comes from the HMRC with expertise in ocean energy and offshore energy devices, and coastal engineering, and lately moved towards investigation into offshore transport and deployment of such devices. In the maritime operations side, this is looking at the law, human factors, fatigue, logistics, and ecosystem governance. Critically, this will underpin the sustainable development of offshore activity, and that has been outlined as well in the strategy framework that was described for us earlier. Enabling maritime technology, this critically is where I can see INFOMAR fitting in with the data and the experience in interpreting this data will obviously enable all these 4 areas. So the INFOMAR project is very, very valuable to the success of the IMERC project. So I was asked today to talk about our achievements to date. So as I say, we were bringing together some established research groups, so the CMRC. I picked out GeoCs here as one large project, other ones have been mentioned, and I'm probably not fully up to speed on all the projects that CMRC are using that use INFOMAR data. The HMRC has 2 areas, ocean renewables and coastal engineering, and they use several of these projects that I've identified here have used INFOMAR data, again, lovely freely available data in the project planning for those projects. So that's the UCC existing research groups. There's a new group, as I mentioned, down in the NMCI, in the National Maritime College of Ireland in Ringaskiddy, that has, in the last 2 years, has launched the NMCI research. In 2 years, it's €1 million cash funding, and again, very, very applied and linked to industry. The research areas are maritime safety and security, global shipping, transport and logistics, ocean information engineering, simulation of the maritime education and training, and the projects are mentioned there in the logos. So that this is an exciting adventure for IMERC, and again, one of our successes that we have established such a group, and it is growing with lots of ideas in the pipeline, basically short of people at the moment, which is a nice sound to make in the current climate. The campus growth, which has been alluded to earlier, is the new Beaufort Laboratory. Beaufort Laboratory is UCC's presence on the IMERC campus. It's a €14 million facility. Site preparation is complete and construction is out to tender. It's been shortlisted down already for the final decision of going with the construction company. The aim is for completion in Q4 2013. As an engineer, I probably shouldn't say it's probably ambitious, but we'll go with the common word anyway at the moment. And again, it'll bring together research groups existing in UCC, like I mentioned, and will share the campus and the facilities with NMCI. So again, the cross-cutting and the value already of co-locating is being identified. And the building hopes to house 150 researchers along with the National Maritime Energy Wave Basin for examining sea conditions. The next big piece of news from IMERC is the SFI bid, which fits into the IMERC plan. It's a UCC-led SFI application for €29 million worth of funding, which, if granted, will help populate this new Beaufort Laboratory for the next 6 years. What's really good about this particular application, and we'll know in January if we got it or not, is there's 42 industry partners. So it's a big application, very, very widespread. It incorporates NUIG, UL, UCD and Maynooth as well. But the 42 industry partners, we believe, is the strongest key in it. It's also the only one at this stage who survived to this stage in the energy area. So we're quite hopeful we'll get it. If we don't get it, the plans then are to break all this fantastic work that's been done to put all the partners together, to break them into smaller spin-off projects. So it's not a do or die issue for Beaufort, but there is strong hope that we should be in with a good shout, because we're the only energy one who has such a strong industry link with the 42 partners. This is where we are today. Before I came along to IMERC, there's been an awful lot of work meeting and greeting people, welcoming them to IMERC, explaining the vision, and as a result, these are the type of people we've been meeting with, some of whom are deciding to develop further with IMERC, some of them will come back later. But this is a snapshot of the companies we've dealt with. I think it's over 200 at this stage companies have been engaged with, industry companies have been engaged with. So IMERC is delivering. It's not just talking about pipelines and companies and talking to them and shaking their hands and going for lunch with them. Rather, it's already, we have on site last Thursday, today Thursday? Yeah, last Thursday week, Murray and Associates, naval architects, international naval architects, have taken up office in Ringskiddy with us, and they will hope to be up to 5 people by the middle of next year. Skytech, who are a company that do unmanned aircraft systems, have located in our building already, and CTech are another one. There's 3 more companies that are imminently, we're in the final throes of discussions about them. I think at this stage we can mention, but I probably shouldn't mention anyone yet. I'll be in trouble. So already the people are coming there. We have people on site, and at this, because of all the groundwork that is done, canvassing people and encouraging them and convincing them of the IMERC story, people are on site. We're already out of space, so there's a plan here for modular units to accommodate 20 new companies in advance of the arrival of the Beaufort building, because we won't be ready in time. So, victim of success, I suppose, is the way to spin it. And I think modular unit is a very imaginative term for what we all think it might be. The Beaufort Laboratory will have incubation space for startups, but again, we're a little bit caught between timescales on that. The discussions are ongoing with, as again, the big pipeline companies. Okay, so that's what's happening. So it isn't all pipeline, but I'm definitely going to take you now on an imagination pipeline and a dream with this. But to introduce it, let's look at the Harbour as it is today, the lower Harbour. So LMCI is located there on the right-hand side of your picture. There's an empty 15-acre site just north of that, or east of that, which is where the location of the new Beaufort Laboratory will be. The naval base is currently located on Harbour Island. The former ISPAT Irish steel buildings are there. The nasty slag heap is to the top above that sign there. There's one berth for a cruise terminal in Cork, in Cove. The Whitegate Oil Refinery is there pictured. The energy square mile, and as an electrical engineer, I think it's fascinating that in 1 square mile, just over there, there's 25% of Ireland's electricity demand, installed capacity is located in 1 square mile. So that's quite impressive, and also it means if we're ever trying to attract any heavier industry to the lower harbour, there's certainly no problem with energy supply. The Cork dockyards, Rome dockyards are further up the channel that way. The naval dockyard is here. Obviously the Port of Cork, the 2nd largest national harbour in the world after Sydney. And Kinsale gas field is off the coast that way, and Barry Row, the Providence have discovered their oil find there and are doing big publicity of that at the moment. And obviously access to the Atlantic Ocean. So that's what's there now. And I suppose you can kind of see there's an awful lot in a very tight area, okay? It's separated by sea. Oh, I didn't mention the 20-metre high clam that someone spotted on a map earlier, the giant shell. So that's probably another feature we can attract tourism or something. So that's today, and this is the vision for the future. So we've doubled, you can imagine a doubling of the cove. This is the dream. We've got an architect to help us, give them all the ideas, and they come up with a plan like this. A footbridge or pedestrian access or cycling bridge onto Spike Island, which has been zoned for public amenity. They have some wave energy devices. Now, as an engineer, that's not correctly located because you can't put them on the road because the waves just wouldn't work that way. So it hurts my eyes when I look at that. Looking more closely at Hallbolan, there's a slag heap, the poisonous one, and here it looks all quite pretty right now. With the public amenity park here on the land that can be constructed upon. The architect put the nice idea of an outdoor auditorium, so we can envisage this happening out there. Again, the footbridge access. On this side, there's another part of this island that has reclaimed land and not suitable for construction, but can be used, and the Navy will help with this permission for testing of these unmanned air vehicles there. So we have an idea of a landing strip for these vehicles heading for testing the harbour. Again, the Navy will be very, very keen, and I think will be, the money now exists to clean the slag heap. I think that's been in the news and everything, but generally IMERC and the Navy are very, very keen to encourage everyone to, at this opportunity, take this money and also fix the west wall of the naval dockyard. And it gives us more opportunity for deployment at this wall, and it values or increases the value of the site. So Ringskiddy today, moving in a little bit closer to where we are and again to the future. So can I use the mouse? I'd rather use the mouse. So that's currently built, that exists. This here is the new Beaufort building that will be built, that is happening. And then this is the IMERC extension plan that's currently, we're working on a master plan for that. We're writing up a document for invitation to tender for the analysis of how we build this master plan, how we roll out this site, which is owned by Port of Cork, but Port of Cork have agreed for this development, and I'm helping them with pushing this along with their help and with their agreements. So that's the future plan. Again, wind turbines can't be placed that close together either, because it just doesn't work. I think, oh yes, that's our building. So the key points, just to wrap up. So I really would like you to take home that it's a very, very ambitious vision to be a centre of world standing. It's not an inter-university one. The ambition is large, is very, very high. And this lofty ambition is supported at the highest level of independent partner institutions. And in fact, it's exciting people. They're actually rolling in behind it, and at the highest level in the institutions, they're saying, yeah, we should push for this. So that's very, very reassuring, and certainly very exciting to be involved in an organisation like this with such high level support. The other thing I'd like to stress is that we're keen to work with all national stakeholders. This is not an inward-looking project. This is to benefit Ireland, to make us and the test sites all around our coast, to benefit everyone here. The access to Cork Airport is handy. It's out of Dublin, so that will be what it will be. So I really want to stress here that it's a national, that we would share benefit nationally. And again, just to drive home the point, yeah, we have a lofty, very, very ambitious, far-reaching worldwide ambition, but it's becoming a reality. For the SFI bit, we'll be plans otherwise. We'll know in January that. We're already at the limit for industrial suites, and we're looking at an interim solution, and the plans for the site extension are underway. So just to finish up with our vision again, and thanks for your time.